horse drifted alarmingly in the betting, was, fancied in the morning, continued to drift. It was late on the exchanges to lose. It was something you'd see in a Dick Francis novel, Charles Buttons.
The ground is soft. It's
heavy.
It's soft on times.
It's heavy.
Okay.
Good evening. A very warm welcome to the Barsters Inquiry Sunday Sermon. Yes, we've recorded this one early, so apologies if any of you have come through on Sunday with questions and weren't to know, but we did have to record Saturday evening due to engagements on the Sunday.
And this podcast is brought to you
by Dickie's Barber's Shop. Yes, Whole Hog Farm. That's the place to go for your haircut in North Yorkshire. It's certainly the best one that I go to, and his products aren't too bad as well. He's got Sticky Dickies hair wax. Who wants some Sticky Dickies in the hair? That's the place to go. And also missing this week for you fanboys of Lord Malvo Chris, he's not available for this show, unfortunately. This is how it is sometimes. We have lives now and again. So it's just me and my best pal and partner in crime, John Lang, to go through the fat this week. Good evening, John.
Evening, Lee. Evening, everyone.
Yes. Now, it's been a strange old week in racing this week.
Oh, hasn't it? Yes.
Yeah, we've not had much to talk about in recent weeks. It's been a bit quiet on the old Western front, but this week seems to have took a turn. We'll get to that in a bit. But
they've ramped up the action, haven't they?
Yeah, there are some topics certainly to go through, and we've had some great questions, some funny ones as well, so thank you for these, and we'll obviously come to them later in the show. Right, without further ado, I think we owe it to our listeners to go through yesterday's racing. Newmarket, of course, was the destination of choice for City of Troy in the Dewhurst, John. And I am absolutely blown away by this horse. I don't think I've seen many horses in my lifetime. I mean, you'll have seen more. You'll have definitely seen plenty. But in my lifetime, recent lifetime, when my memory hasn't got Alzheimer's, this horse is the absolute perfect professional.
His attitude's unbelievable, isn't it? I think you could let a fucking bomb off next to him and I don't think he'd turn around. He's just everything you'd want in a 2-year-old, isn't he? He noddles along there, he doesn't go keen. You give him a little bit of a nudge and then the fucking afterburners kick in and Jesus Christ, it's just awe-inspiring, really.
He's a horse that, for me, at 3, he could win at any trip from a mile to a mile and 6. No problem. Probably even further. Because he's not buzzy. He doesn't...
No.
It's like as if to say you've got a proper Group 1 horse. And when I say proper Group 1, it's getting towards a See the Stars of Frankel Group 1. But he hasn't got, say, Frankel's... Don't get me wrong, I'm not dissing Frankel. Frankel's the best horse I've seen in my lifetime. But the buzziness of Frankel obviously was...
I think he's a better 2-year-old than Frankel.
I do as well, I'll say that. I think he's a better 2-year-old than Frankel. And Aidan today on ITV Racing said that City of Troy was his best ever 2-year-old that he's trained.
I'm not surprised.
That's certainly high praise. I mean, given what they've had there as well. Some people say, I'd rather the little guy have a brilliant horse and not just Coolmore. But I think for Coolmore, this is pivotal because you've lost Galileo, which was obviously your extremely influential bloodline for all your mares, etc., etc. And I think now they have got the absolute perfect replacement. I know they've got other sires in Justify, Wootton Bassett. They're probably 2 key ones. But in City of Troy now, they're going to have one. And I don't care what anyone says. As long as this doesn't get injured, and God forbid don't get injured. But if City of Troy, everything's okay, this wins the Guineas, the Derby, and whatever they choose to go for. So whether that's the International at York, whether they do the Triple Crown and do the Ledger instead, that's something that you've talked to me about.
He's 10 to 1 for that.
You seem to think that the Coolmore boys have got it in their eyesight to do the Triple Crown.
Well, Eden always says the lads, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Let's make no mistake about this. Magna's driving the bus. And I think right back to when Magna first got caught in O'Brien's daughter, when Nijinsky had just done the Triple Crown, I think that made a massive impression on him. When he was first setting up the stud and they were buying Green God, he actually mooted the idea of putting a syndicate together to buy Nijinsky back from Winfield.
Yeah.
I mean, he was that keen on getting the Triple Crown winner standing in Europe. And I think it'd be like a lifetime dream for Magna, that. I'm absolutely convinced if that horse wins the Guineas and the Derby, there's only one place it'll be going after that, and that's Doncaster.
Right, folks, you've heard it here first on Bar Stewards. Obviously, that will be the plan, the Guineas and Derby. I think that's set in stone. I don't think there'll be any trials for City of Troy. I think it's straight to the Guineas, straight to the Derby. And like you say, the Ledger, 10-1, John says, for the Triple Crown. Get on. I like John's case. I mean, obviously, the traditional way for purists, because obviously there's this trend thing with breeders now, isn't it? If you win, say, Guineas and Derby, sometimes you step back to the 10 to do the judgment and show that the sire's just not all about siring national huntbreds. Ledger winners, in all fairness.
But you see with this one, though, like that Group 1 win at 7 today, the manner of it has set him apart.
Yeah.
You know what he's on the spade front. Because there's
No.
horses, Alan Garby, and they just couldn't go with him. Wise.
Exactly that, John. That's a very good point. Because the second and third horses, even though people will try and crib it and say, well, the third's rated 98 and the second is rated 107, the pace they've actually showed so far in their race, Eben Shaddad is a bit of a turn of foot horse. They couldn't get near him. Dettori's comments were interesting today because he said on ITV Race, I think I heard, that he felt about 3 out or just heading down towards the 2 pole. He thought City of Troy was going nowhere. All of a sudden, he was gone.
It's a superlative.
Like you said, the closing stage of the superlative, it was like a repeat performance of that, really.
Yeah.
We said Frankel was possibly one in a lifetime, but I think this horse is, because of his nature, I have no fears. There's none of this boiling over in the paddock. There's none of this, oh, well, we've had to do this with him because he's a right bastard. His demeanour was, because sometimes after an absence like that, so you've not ran since July, you could forgive a horse of that sort of quality for being a bit G'd up, a bit ready to go. You've not run since bloody July. So all of a sudden, you're thinking, will this just be a bit fizzy early or something? No, none of that.
Well, reading between the lines, like, Aiden's been very relaxed about not getting a run into him since the superlative, hasn't he? He knows what he's got at home. I mean, he'll be watching these horses every day, horses of this calibre. He would have known that this horse was just going to perform wherever he dropped him in.
Did you like the comments about what Aiden said as well when he said, I know, he gives it all the spiel for the lads and that this has got speed. We know all his comments, but do you think the comments that he actually said that where they've never got to the bottom of this horse on the gallops, and that's interesting because he does it like a Rolls Royce. They don't need to push so hard. Like you said, with a lot of the others, they probably break a lot of potential group horses at home because they can't stand the training regime to get them to group level. I find that really interesting that he says he's the only horse they've ever had that they can't get to the bottom of. He does what they've required and he does it without breaking sweat.
I don't think we get to the bottom of this if we worked it at home with August Road on over 10.
Yeah.
Work for age terms. I don't think we would. I think it's just a freak.
I'm in that camp, and we have been since the start, really. Your paddock comments from the first run, the way that he nearly ran into the hoarding at the Curragh because he couldn't be pulled up. I put the brakes on as he was going through the...
I mean, that's a marvellous guard there at the Curragh because there's very few go right down to the boards there. And if they do, you can back them. This one nearly went through. I mean, Ryan did have to put left hand down pretty sharpish.
Yeah, also they've gone, yeah. And again, on the pull-up today, again, well up the hill. It wasn't stopping.
Even maybe stopped at Asda, I think. In the town.
Yeah, no, it'd be Marks and Spencer's for some that beef in coriander and garlic, John.
Yeah, possibly.
Because City of Troy's a smart judge, so I'm sure City of Troy would have
chosen. I'd know where to get that for 3 for 2, wouldn't he?
3 for 2 when it's on offer. Yeah, in fact, Mr. Councillor Woodman today had been on and he yellow stickered some beef and coriander and garlic today. Sell by date was end of today, but they've troughed a lot.
Well, yeah, you're going to, aren't you?
Family feed. There we go.
I think you could do 15 packs of that if you were hungry, couldn't you?
Yeah, I'm one of them though. I must admit, I'll have fads. I'll have Weetabix for a bit, or I'll have something for a bit, and then I get bored of it. And so, yeah, even this, I have layoffs, and then I go back. When we got it, when you came,
I Weetabix for 3 weeks after 79 national when the Alfella got claimed out.
It's like soup for a month, isn't it? Anyway, that's the go-to meat. So you've been told by John. John is convinced they go for the Triple Crown with that next year. I Probably agree with that, even though the traditional route might have been like what we said, Eclipse or Juddmonte or whatever. But I think the Eclipse now seems a bit of a dead race, doesn't it? They're all favouring International at York.
Yeah, you know what you get and you know what the ground's going to be unless it pisses down. It's just it's a fairer track anyway.
Yeah, it is. Despite Cooper Clark's efforts this year, which I shall commend the bloke, really.
He's only got what he can work with, hasn't he?
We were a critic last season, but I think this season he's done a much better job in terms of putting water on. Unlike Ascot, which seemed to have gone down a dark path for some reason all of a sudden. That's actually one of our questions this week. Bidders.
Good old Bidders.
Bidders. I love Bidders. He's funny. He's a funny man. This is when will Ascot start watering to maintain safe conditions, John?
Oh, Christ.
He's currently soft all over at the minute, which I suppose you sort of expect with rain we've had. But I mean,
it's next week, isn't it?
Yeah, but these guys are they've gone to legendary status now. I mean, Stuart Williams slagged them off recently. There's other trainers. One trainer, I can't remember who it was. I think this might have been off the record, though, so I better not say him. But he actually said, the exact words were, well, Ascot's a fucking kip, isn't it now? How can we be talking about Ascot as a kip? It should be a lovely, galloping, sweeping track, John.
Well, if they wanted it to be a lovely, galloping, sweeping track, they should have took Carson's trees out and made it a 4 furlong run in, shouldn't they, really?
Yeah.
That would have been better, but they ain't done that, so it is what it is, and it's overwatered.
Banks is always moaning about Ascot as well, because he goes on about the Ascot bet, setting the random pitches up while Jeff's got to pay Quinton fortunes to stand. And he's moaning like fuck is Jeff all the time. In fact, Jeff moans like a bastard at the moment, John.
I can understand it, really. He's not happy with Ascot bet, and I'm sure the punters aren't terribly glossed with it either. But again, it is what it is. People can't seem to accentuate much change unless they don the pink T-shirts and stampede somewhere.
Do you think that's a problem, though, with society, though? And I'm on about general punters as a rule, random punters. They set up these Ascot bet points, and they're taking lesser odds than what you'd get with book. Are we talking punters in general are complete maggots?
We're not educating people these days, are we? The only thing we teach kids is gambling's bad.
Yeah.
When I first started betting, the old fellas showing me how to go on in the betting ring, if I was saying, oh, look, can I bet that at 8 to 1, I'd get a smack on the nut if it was 9 somewhere else.
Well, how many now that go racing would ask for fractions?
A very small fraction.
Yes, so for listeners, again, I don't want to belittle anyone. This is it, education. We got taught this. If you got a 12 to 1 chance and you wanted 80 quid on it, you didn't say £80 this at 12s. You said 1,000 to 80. It's supposed to be 960 to 80, but you're asking for the fractions. So you say 1,000 to 80, and that's what you'd ask the book for. Common sense. It's like round it up. Bit of value for the punter. Most books, I'm not saying all would, but I'd say the majority back in the day would lay you the fraction. And that's how you play it shrewdly as a punter. If it were 14 to 1, you'd have £1,000 to 70 rather than 980 to 70, and so on and so on. So this is how we used to play the game, and this is about educating kids coming to the course rather than just going to the books with a £20 or whatever and saying £20 on this.
Asking for an acca.
Yeah, they need to be cheeky, and so go to the book and go £20 at 12s. No, ask for a 250 to 20. It's round amounts: 250. 500, 750, 1,000. Just try and be cheeky, and I think they haven't got the nous about them. It's just like they just go like sheep and they'll take any price.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, coming back to Cesarovic, John, I digress just for a moment. Cesarovic, then our very own Nicholas Davis, Alvin Martin,
He's some boy,
Frank McAvenny, all that lot from them days. He decided to put up a reverse forecast on bar stewards, and yet 92.3 something to 1. This was an incredible shout. And to be fair to Nick has shouted this on our Patreon for a while with his Irish system. And Nick's Irish system, which you can read on there for £7 a month, would have pointed this out to support the Irish horses in staying races. So the Shunter and Pied Piper, it was just an outstanding call. We did give a mention to Tashcan as well. Brian loved it, and obviously that ran very well as well. So it wasn't a bad race for us, that. Any thoughts on Cesarewitz, John? Any unlucky horses you saw him behind?
One I was interested in, a little favourite of mine, Siobhan Rutledge. I thought she rode a very interesting race on Mr. Escobar coming over the stands rails. The commentator had it dropping right out. It's actually finished 10th. I think that was probably quite an inspired move, actually, given that later in the day Highland Avenue pegged the rails and pissed up. I think that's probably flattered by that, thanks to Miss Rutledge doing what she did.
Did it take her there, or did she put it there?
No, again, I mean, commentators say, oh, he's hanging. He wasn't hanging. She just gradually made her way over there.
Yeah.
Again, she probably walked the track. A lot of these don't do they?
Yep. Godolphin, Woodbine, Carrot.
Looked that way, didn't it? Was it? Yeah, 3 pissed up, didn't they? So
The Godolphin horses, Ancient Wisdom, Arabian Crown, and Highland Avenue, won by an aggregate of 13 and a half lengths.
nice.
Not bad, is it?
Very nice. No, not bad at all.
In a Group 3, a Group 3, and a Group 3. So they won 3 Group 3s, trees, by 13 and a half lengths. So I wonder if the recent trip to Woodbine was fruitful.
Very possibly.
Well, this is the game. All very well backed as well. Really well backed. No one for Sir Highland Avenue going off 5. Arabian Crown went off odds on. Ancient Wisdom a solid 2-1 market leader. And the boys in blue came good with their carrots. Anything else that you saw, John, that is worth mentioning on a Bar Stewards review?
I don't think so, actually. I think the rest of it was pretty plain, really.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that's all worth covering. I do love your advice on a potential Triple Crown bet. I think we can flagship that as a listen, because that's a good call. Because if you're right with that, that's going to be huge. Because if he gets to the Guineas on the day, John, City of Troy, what does it go off at, do you reckon? 4-7?
Yeah, I would have said 6, 7.
Yeah, so 4-7-ish. Then Derby, it's going to be 4-5, isn't it? Yeah.
Tips, isn't it?
So 4-7, 4-5, then it wins Derby. In fact, it could even be an El Gran Senor and maybe somehow get beat, which God forbid, no. But then it could turn up in Ledger and it's going to be... You don't get the same calibre of horse anymore for the Ledger that you used to. So you're taking on 108, 110 horses. So you probably go off 2-5 in a Ledger and scare most off anyway. I would say, yeah, what's that work out as a treble? Let's do it now. 4-7 for a Guineas. We're saying 4-5 for a Derby. I'll set 3s on for a Ledger.
Yeah. It's optimistic, isn't
Go,
it?
will it stay? Pays £3.77 to £1. What you're saying, if they choose to go that route, it's 11-4.
Yeah.
We think in true odds to do the Triple Crown. So there you go, John. You've nailed it. 10-1.
It's
There you go.
10-1.
10-1 for a triple. Have you seen who that's with, John?
Paddy Power, isn't it? I think so, Paddy Power.
I bet with illegals these days and vagabonds and thieves. It's the city of thieves.
We're all right till you want paying out.
It is a bit like that these days, yeah.
I bet you don't have much trouble paying them.
No trouble paying them. It's just...
Another silk. Lovely.
It's just when you want a few quid for a few sundries, it gets a bit difficult.
You're not in the game for that.
I'm in the game to moan, which is why we're here. Monsieur No. That's where we are. Right, so we've done the review. Fun part of the show where we take your questions and also discuss this week's topics, which I got one listener, Peter Robinson, that is very upset if we mention the sardine, Frankie Dettori. So Peter, skip this part of the show, listen to the rest. But we've got to mention it because I'm sorry, but as a pod, we've had a lot of praise for this because we called this, what was it, about 3 months ago, saying that he was going to be riding in California and he's not retiring at all. And then it's announced again, another Bar Stewards exclusive. But without trumpeting that, just I think the disgrace of it, John, the fact that he had a meal booked at was it, I don't know, Grosvenor or somewhere, some posh hotel, £1,200 a table, black tie affair on his retirement.
Yeah. Well, we didn't have a 11-seater for Bar Stewards.
Well, what about all the tracks he's fleeced? Is that the tracks that are fucking stupid? Or, well, yeah, that.
Yes.
All the thank you, Frankie banners.
I don't think he'll be back here.
He will be. I'll have you an even fiver.
There's a precedent for this that you might not be aware of. Now, Lester retired in 1985, didn't he? In the run-up to the 1986 Guineas, Vincent O'Brien's jockey got injured. And he had one for the 1,000, and he had a horse called Take Gallery that was going in Dancing Brave's 2,000 guineas. And Lester Piggott was all set to come back and ride it. And the people who had produced memorabilia for the Piggott retirement, the big date Nottingham, etc., the plates and all this. So if you get on that horse, we'll sell the arse off you. And that's what stopped Lester Piggott making a comeback in 1986.
Wow.
Because of all the stuff that had been licensed linked to his retirement.
Never do that.
I would imagine that there'll be quite a bit of licensed material with the Sardine, where I'm not surprised he's going to ride in America. I do think he'll have to stay there or ride Australia, whatever, but I don't think you'll see him back here.
You make a very good point there, because we said on a previous show as well that we read some reports on his worth. And look, this isn't looking into Peter being nosy on the finances. It's just
We just did an affordability check, didn't we? It was
just an affordability check. Just excuse me, sir.
frictionless.
Frictionless. It was 165 million he's earned throughout his career, and he's worth, including assets, just 14.8, which says that he's
at a good rate.
Yeah, there's nothing left overlooked.
At the end of the day, if you'd earned 145
165.
million, well, all right, 165 million, and they're reckoning up what you've got left, and it's 164 million, and you're on your deathbed, they'd say, well, that's your big cunt, wouldn't they?
Well, we don't like there'll be a big amount in tax, of course, but
Yeah.
that's not the take home. But still,
If you only spent $1 million, you'd think it was a pilchard,
Yeah.
wouldn't you?
if Carson had 165 million, he'd have had 166 million by now.
Oh, you stick the interest on it. You stick the interest on it.
The difference in the two, incredible.
Wasted on Carson, wouldn't it?
If he were he's Mr. Mean. He is the definition of Mr. Mean when he sits on his gold treasure chest, like to eat his breakfast. He sits on it so no fucker can get in it. You know?
He eats his breakfast off his gold plate with his gold cutlery.
yeah. While his sons crash and burn. So, I mean, the Frankie thing, it's a bit sickening, really, in terms of what I think we've had to endure from the media.
The thing as well, no matter what he does, he'll never be as fondly looked back on as Piggott.
No.
Despite Piggott being an absolute twat at times, he always got away with it. But every time the Tories had a misdemeanour, his popularity's absolutely plummeted, hasn't it? And he's always shown signs of that sort of petulant attitude as well with the me thing. And that's it. That's one of the reasons that he'd never win a poll as like the best because he wasn't liked enough.
No. It's a good point, Sean. Bidders has come in with a funny question. It's a funny one, this.
Yeah.
Who do you feel more misled by? Frankie or Captain Tom's daughter?
Captain Tom's daughter every time, because she told a barefaced lie. She said he died on his birthday because they were only halfway through giving him the bumps. And she said that had pissed her off.
Tom's daughter, yeah. Another character.
You know, a fellow once said to me, he said, if you want to spot a dodgy bastard, right, look for somebody who was in the forces and still uses the prefix captain when they're in civilian life. Lower ranks like that, he said, they're nearly always fucking rotten. He said, if they come out and they were colonels, generals, fair enough. He said, but captains, he said, are invariably arseholes. Given the only other experience would be Captain Nick Lees, who was in charge at Gilmarket before Prosser.
Come back, Captain Nick Lee's all is forgiven.
No, probably not.
No. The only thing is, Prosser's going, isn't he, now? So Prosser's done.
Yes, we'll be getting a lively, wide-eyed replacement who fits the bill.
Somebody like Ascot.
Yes.
We've got it all to do again next year, where we talk about all-weather tracks all over the lands.
The road to Doncaster.
So, obviously, the other big bone of contention this week was the BHA and Jockey Club coming out with the revised Grand National rules, John. Forget the rules, really. They could do anything, couldn't they? But what's your take on all this? I'd like your rant on it. What do you feel about this?
You won't be surprised to know I've got a little bit to say on the subject. Now, the BHA and the Jockey Club, for me, have picked the worst possible time for these changes. Animal Action will take credit for them, and their disruption of the meeting we can expect to continue and gain more traction with every bit of ground conceded to them. Reducing the capacity of runners is just window dressing. The course is wide enough for 50 runners, but it will come down again in a couple of years as a further sop to the Animal Rights Brigade, because what they're not addressing is the fact that the lower fences will make crowding on the inside more prevalent anyway. Running the race earlier so that the watering doesn't evaporate means you can just shoot your top of the ground chaser who needs 4 miles to be seen at his best. Red Rum need not have applied. He wouldn't have placed in 5 nationals. Yet another fence load, the 11th. Why not just do away with all the fences in one fell swoop? Animal Aid would have to get used to waiting 15 to 20 years for each fatality and they might lose interest. 118 people were arrested for invading the pitch last season. Now, not one of them has faced any charges, so they'll be even bolder this year. The BHA could have taken action against these people, a private prosecution, hampering the business, restraint of trade, whatever. But they prefer to look for podcasts that call them out on the shambolic running of the sport rather than doing anything constructive like that. Once again, it's something that racing has let in the back door. They didn't even announce these measures were under review. When they come out with it, they said, we review every year and all this. When there's a review taking 6 months like this, and it's probably to ensure that racing people and those with a sense of preserving the sport can see the dangers in trying to appease the unappeasable, speaking up against all these safety measures. I mean, we still don't have a clue if water ground is safer than quick because there's still no stats. It's the Whip Nonny show revisited, replayed, and the same stupid mistakes repeated by those who were paid handsomely to know better. They said these measures were not anything to do with Animal Action, yet one change is doing away with the pre-race parade in front of the stands, asking the lads to release the horses at the end of the walkway to the track. Now that's a direct sop to Animal Aid, because they're saying horses cannot choose not to race. They're led to their deaths, etc., against their will. So the BHA can say, well, look, they're going down there of their own free will, they're not being led. Then you've got the RSPCA lady, Emma Slowinski, who's repeatedly called for an end to the use of the whip. So she's obviously got a lot of input into racing. She's already into the ribs. She says, we're very pleased to see the Jockey Club taking horse welfare seriously. That should be challenged as to when did it not, and making changes to the Grand National as a result. We believe that racehorses should have a good life on and off the track. Well, so does racing, and they do have a good life on and off the track, and should never be exposed to unacceptable risk of injury or death. I'll repeat, any steps from the Jockey Club to meet that aim are a positive step forward, and we look forward to seeing this announcement pave the way for further changes and remain keen to work with them. So in a nutshell, the start of many changes. You cannot appease these people. We believe that racehorses should have a good life on and off the track, never exposed to injury or death. There's the bottom line. Horses can and do die in racing. That's where our trail and RSPCA part ways. They believe they should never ever be exposed to the potential of death. Now, how do you marry up those two polar opposite views? On the opening show, Ollie Bell spoke to Aintree Clark, Sulika Verma, who more or less welcomed what the RSPCA had said out opening the door to further improvements, changes, neutering, call it what you will. Another one not prepared to defend racing in the slightest.
Incredible, Ram. And very difficult to disagree with anything you've said. Given the modern world we live in, John, and I'm not saying it's better than the one that we lived in, which it isn't in our view, but we've clearly opened a path now where national hunt racing is going to come under increasing scrutiny. Ted Walsh said it.
Massively so. Yeah.
The difference is, obviously, people say, well, what about flat racing? The difference would be that the stress on the tendons of the horses that are jumping fences, there'd be a lot more on the tendons of horses on poly track, sorry, on water ground. It's a tremendous rant. And the thing for me is, like the whip, we're done, aren't we?
There's certain situations in life, if you take a step backwards, you'll be walking backwards the rest of your life. And I'm afraid the custodians of this sport have done that. And as a result, we're in dead lumber. If we'd chased these people when it first started, they'd be looking at something else now. They'd maybe be looking at the Pamplona bull run or hair coursing.
It's like everything. For example, human beings, yeah, they'll pursue adrenaline-based sports where they'll climb mountains, Everest. They will skydive from ridiculous height. They will do ridiculous adrenaline-based things and increase their risk of death by quite a large quantity. But nothing's said on that. Are we to say we've got to ban that because no, you're not allowed to climb Everest anymore? Chris Bonington, you can fuck off because you're putting the lives at risk of people that's the Sherpas that's helping you up there and stuff like that. It's the same thing, isn't it? An adrenaline rush for a human being has just as much risk as an adrenaline risk for an animal.
Oh yeah, but these people don't care what human beings do because human beings have free will and they can choose to do it. That's their angle all the way. We're coercing these animals to do this. Yeah, Kevin Blake, when he was defending the National in the spring, made an excellent point that besides the fact the thoroughbred wouldn't exist if it wasn't for racing, if you did away with racing, there's like 50,000 thoroughbreds to rehome. None of that came out of this BHA review regarding the National. It was all about toning the National down. Rather like with the betting angle as well, where they've been reluctant to address the likely problems caused by affordability. Well, they were reluctant to address them. Now John Gosden spoke and they can actually open their mouths on the subject. But where they didn't want to address the subject, they were saying, no, we've got everything in hand, we've got good lobbyists, all the rest of it. Now they're having to take it seriously. But the stance that they took initially, were a little bit embarrassed by the fact that the sport's financed by gambling and by the fact it's a gross profits tax, not a levy on turnover. It's that shame because you have people in charge who aren't proud of this sport. They're proud of the company car, they're proud of the fact they'll have a nice pension, but they are not proud of this sport. It's a means to an end for them. It's not something that they're cherishing and looking to pass on to the next generation.
You have covered this topic fantastically, John. It's one of your superior rants over Bar Steward's sermon history, and it's a pleasure to be part of this with you, doing this through mental health, through lockdowns, and getting to where we are now, where we've got a bit of a voice in racing, or a small one, from a horrible podcast that we've now created, but it's more potent than what it used to be. And I've known you a long time, and some of your rants on racing is absolutely perfect sense. That was one of them. Thank you for that. It was a pleasure to listen. Let's move on. We'll move on from the National and Frank.
Got somebody sent the police round there.
BHA.
Got the Rozzers on the speed now.
Coming on to a question from Graham North, which is on...
I never swore once there, you notice that?
Captain T, we're going to talk about jumps racing. It's against our religion. I like Graham North. I think he's a good fella. He obviously works for Timeform and he does his pace stuff and shit like that. Quite a knowledgeable fella. And he says he's Captain Teague, the real thing, with a question mark. I don't know if this is a test question because it's won the Persian War, first time up overheard, and it's beat the right types. It's got a massive engine, but it made about 3 bad errors, I felt. But then that's the positive thing. This is where is my jumping knowledge slightly lacking in terms of...
Well, I think your knowledge is slightly lacking. When you said it won the Persian War, I thought it had a dust up in Iran.
Graham, to answer your question, engine-wise, incredible, but we knew that anyway from the national flat performances. But in terms of Captain Teague at Chepstow, incredibly novice-y, but to do what he did, he has got a serious engine there. But again, are we talking Paul Nicholls here and training a Cheltenham Fez winner? I don't know. You know, it's one of them, and it might turn up at Kempton or something and win one there at Christmas and a few, and then at Cheltenham it goes from 3-1 to 8s and runs shit. I don't know, but that's how I saw it. A proper engine.
If we're going to start blindsiding us with national hunt questions on a Sunday, we need Never-Ender on speed
We
dial,
do.
don't we?
Never-Ender will be back this winter, which will be pleasing for most of you. And we are making another National Hunt edition as well for this winter, which you'll be very pleased about. The announcement in due course. Right, on to Emmerdale. I mean, I haven't watched Emmerdale for years. I haven't watched Emmerdale since Jack Sugden and Amos
Yeah.
and stuff. What the fuck is this?
He was mutton chops, wasn't he?
Yeah, Mr.
He had cheap pieces before they were popular. They were gay, by the way.
What, Mr. Wilkes and Amos?
Definitely.
Yeah, you couldn't admit it in them days, could you?
No, there was something going on, definitely. If you'd had a camera upstairs, they'd have been like Markham and Wise in bed. No?
Mr. Wilkes.
Oh, Mr. Wilkes.
And who was that? NY Estates. Alan Turner. He were a bastard, weren't he?
Yeah, he was. He was a shit house.
What a shit he were back in the day.
Now the shit houses are shooting everybody, aren't they? Whereas he was just picking the farms off.
Another talking point. Sid's been on. He says, my talking point is the disappearance of golf club. Discuss.
Well, he's gone missing, hasn't he, really?
He might have had some bad crispy beef.
He could have done. I mean, he consumed plenty, hasn't he?
Yeah, he used to buy about 2 or 3, didn't he? Fucking store up for a couple of days, and remember they fucking put some rat in or something.
My mate Sonny used to do that, if he had a decent winner, he'd go to the supermarket and get 40 tins of salmon and stock his cupboards up. Bought 8 kilo bags of salt once. I said, what the fucking hell are you doing? He said, you never have too much salt. I thought, well, talk to your doctor about that. I think you can.
Well, wish him well, wherever he is, golf club, if you're listening. Get in touch. Get in touch with the Barsters. Right, WV Horse and Cricket has been on, and he says Horse has just won his 11th race in France this year with winnings of 650,000. The trainer said if it won those races in the UK, it would have earned 150,000 tops. When do we say fuck it and go full on turt? Not as much fun, but the prize money is a joke in the UK. My opinion, John, is I'm being anti-selfish here, that I think we should go full on turt. I think if you want racing to survive, it's the only model we can go, because you don't have to rely on big corp shafting the game, wanting it their way, how they want it.
But in order to bring that about, we'd need a much less corrupt political system, because there's too many people in Westminster that are bought and paid for by big corp who ensure it never ever went through.
And the other thing, I mean, there's been rumours like the turt seeding the markets as well. So the turt are using algorithms on the place pots and jackpots where the horses are under bet, as in you might get a 6's chance on exchange, and it's representing like a 20's chance in place pot. They're naffing up all the value, and they're putting their own money into the system to neutralise the value, so to speak, of the polls. There's that many corrupt people these days. I mean, you need to like King Kong, where they just say, fuck you, I'm chopping your hands off if you bent, you cunt. Poor Vincent Ho, he paid the price for not riding out that line when he dead eaten.
They should hold Vincent Ho as an example when this COVID inquiry concludes, and they say, look at this. Now, do you think Boris rode out to obtain the best possible finish? If it's found that he hasn't, they should chop his cock off to stop him breeding anymore. His father would have through, because he's one of them that reckons we've got too many people anyway, doesn't he? He wants it down to 14 million in this country.
Right, the BHA fixture changes for 2024. I've actually not had time, because obviously I actually bet, so I haven't had time to go through all this.
I didn't go through a lot. I just felt myself, as per, wishing they'd been bolder, really. I can see the upside to what they're trying to do, prioritising certain meetings that are going to do it. So I mean, it's well-intentioned, and I don't see it doing any damage, but I don't see how it's going to make a great deal of difference, because I don't think they've done it enough. If you're going to have racing on a morning, have it every morning. Yeah. Take the bull by the horns. If you've decided that that's what's necessary, make sure there's a morning meeting every day. Yeah. You know how this is going to pan out. It'd be like the racing league. This is good, we're going to expand it. They're going to do more of it the year after. Why not just go all in with the changes if you've got faith in them?
The premierisation thing, how I see it, is to lessen the amount we've got now where you fucking run into the back of a 2 mile 7 handicap hurdle at Market Racing with champion stakes or something like that. It's like, it's bollocks, isn't it? Yeah, you need to focus more with more trainer interviews and focus more on the best races. I understand that. But what I'm also seeing personally is this is not just about that. What they tell you in politics and racing is not necessarily what really is. For me, it really is about the bookmakers. They open the shops in the morning and they want a race going off within half an hour of opening, like dog racing. And you're dressing it up as, not you personally, but racing and dressing it up as, oh yeah, that's what we've got to do. We've got to start the track at this time. The premierisation is the plus point, I suppose, in the fact that me and you can maybe watch a big race going off without fucking running into some shit old crap race in the afternoon. I get that. That's perfect. But I don't agree with the early morning starts. Big Corp are just shoving them into, oh yes, this is what we need to do. It's better for punters. It's better for punters. No, it's not.
With the current model, with the gross profits tax, it will probably generate a slightly higher profit, I would hazard a guess at, which in theory should come back to racing. But it's not ideal from a purist point of view. I mean, what we need to remember, Lee, me and you and people like us are a dying breed. Our hair's falling out, we're coughing up blood, and our kids are asking us to change the will. We're getting dragged along with this reluctantly.
But again, we've talked about this on past shows about selling the dream to a punter to be a professional punter and to do it full time. I'm sorry, but you're not selling the dream. This is about the...
You're selling the nightmare, aren't you? You know, you're going to be working morning.
So how's it going to work when generation after generation are reprogrammed by whatever schools are telling them and stuff like that, saying gambling's bad, real, because Andrew John Rhodes will be there with his fucking army of fucking flags and banners at all schools going, with funding they're getting from statutory levy, going, gambling is bad, kids, don't do gambling, it's shit.
Well, I would suggest since probably 1980, the whole of society has been governed by a succession of governments that have believed wholeheartedly in short-termism. I think that's inherent in other aspects of society now, where different industries and nobody's looking long term, are they? The utilities. Nobody's got a long term plan. It's just a sop for the next 5-year parliament. Whatever you look at. Sadly, racing's going down that route as well.
Yes, it is. It's in trouble. I wish we had an outlet to racing powers, and I wish we had some kind of dialogue. We've probably destroyed that with our rhetoric because we don't speak like John Gosden and we don't toe the line, so to speak. But certainly, I think me and you could make a difference to the game and direction it could probably be shaped in, but we don't fit that ilk. We just run a shitty podcast. Next one. Fafa Jane Foy, a good fan of the show. She's come on with also a very good question, also from Bert from Doncaster. Thoughts on why Holly Doyle appears to have been treated very differently to Harry Burns?
Yeah, well.
Harry Burns, for listeners that aren't sure on this, Harry Burns obviously fell foul of the BHA rules, failing to declare a prohibited substance to take for his medication for Crohn's disease, which is an awful illness. Absolutely awful illness, and was absolutely dished the red card by the BHA with a lengthy ban. It was a 6-month ban. Holly Doyle, again, I'm not saying both cases are bollock. I'm not slagging Holly Doyle off here at all. I'm just saying that Holly Doyle got a 1-month suspended sentence for taking basic ibuprofen for her injury to ease the pain. And obviously that came up in a test. The BHA have said, well, yeah, we can see the circumstances. It wasn't performance enhancing, and they're going to 1 month suspended. I'm sorry, but I can't see the difference with the two things, other than that Harry, like any young kid, right, has just fucking forgot.
I can see a bit of a parallel when Blackmore rode finished a circuit too early. I'm just wondering what a male jockey might have copped for there if it hadn't been a flagship lady jockey. And I think that's a similar situation to what we've got here.
Interesting you said that, because Chuck Buck at Betfair Eddie, didn't they? I think he did it at somewhere like Ballinrobe. Eddie heard he rode a circuit too early. And
the media, racing media, and the powers that be are gagging for a lady champion jockey. No question. Gagging for it. They don't want one with a conviction for drugs or whatever. While it would have been wrong to ban her, it would have also been wrong to ban Harry Bird. And they should have left that alone. They can't leave them type of things alone because they love tinkering.
Another own goal, John, is why did they insinuate or make public that Holly Doyle in the media? Why did they even publish that? It's a suspended sentence. It's fuck all. Just don't even publish it.
That's where they fall down again, and PR is absolutely hopeless. If you went in there to straighten things out, really, you'd have a to-do list longer than a fucking Leonard Cohen song.
A quality show, this job. I've enjoyed doing this. Obviously, just me and you this week without Chris. Awesome. I think we're done right there. That's all from me and John on a really top banter and also a really intuitive show. Hope you enjoyed it. Bye for now.